Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. You know, today's show follows yesterday's show very, very nicely. We talked about senescent cells yesterday. Today, we're going to talk about a phenomenon of the androgen receptor and its favorite friend, testosterone, as it relates to muscle pain. And this is something that I've actually observed in my own life over the past 30 years of training. Quite often, when you take off, like during the pandemic, a lot of us had to take off because we didn't have gyms to go to and we didn't have home gyms, as I didn't have one built yet. Now I do. That if you don't train for a while, you start to have aches and pains in your muscles and the bellies of your biceps, your shoulders. And it's baffling to me. It's because like, well, I'm not training. Why should I have pain? Well, I think we're going to talk about that and discuss it in depth today. And it's going to be a very, very fascinating discussion. Later in the show, we're going to have a customer testimonial about one of our sponsors' product, BioPro Plus, which is a sublingual filled with growth factors. And a lot of people are curious about how well it works. And we've got one fella coming on to talk about it today. So we'll stick around for the later part of the show. Before we do anything else, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods. Makers of the Tasty Pastry. The Tasty Pastry was designed to replace the Pop-Tart, and oh boy, did it. Less than 1 gram of sugar, 4 to 5 net carbs if you're a low-carb guy like me, and, of course, 20 grams of high-quality protein. But best of all, you don't have to hold your nose while you eat them. You know, a lot of people eat protein bars just because it fits their macros and it keeps them in their dietary lane. But the reality is the Tasty Pastry you will eat because it's delicious. You will swear you're eating real cake. So much so that your children will probably want to eat them way before you get a chance to. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. They have so many fantastic flavors. It's ridiculous. Check them out. Tell them Carl sent you. And now, without further delay, I'll bring my guests on. Okay, and hopefully we have we'll have to do one other thing. I have to turn on the titles. I'm sorry about that. I don't usually have to do this, but when we have more than one guest on at one time, I have to actually activate titles. Here we go. Where's that little button? There it is. Okay. All right. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kathleen Sluka and Joseph Lesnak. How you doing?
Oh, we're excellent. How are you, Carl?
Hello. Hey. So let's start off at the beginning. I don't know who wants to take this question, but why this study? Why was this study important?
So we've been studying exercise for a long time, Carl, and we're very interested in pain, and we've been studying pain research even longer. And pain is a big problem in America, and we need some safe alternative treatments, right? We all know we have an opioid epidemic, and exercise, turns out, is an effective treatment for almost every type of chronic pain there is. But we don't really know how it works, and we didn't until, we started testing it about 10 years ago. And so we started testing aerobic exercise and found out a whole bunch of underlying mechanisms and how it just resets the nervous system to respond in a less exaggerated manner to a painful insult. So we have more inhibition like opioids in our central nervous system and less excitatory things going on. And so that the painful event doesn't occur. But physical therapists You know, they use all kinds of different types of exercise. And Joe joined the lab and had a real interest in resistance training. So I'll let him tell you why he was really interested in going down that route, because I think, you know, it's really unique. Nobody's done this before in a pain model.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, like Kathleen kind of touched on, there was kind of two reasons I was interested in kind of looking at resistance training as a form of analgesic exercise. The first was, like Kathleen said, in the physical therapy setting, you're traditionally going to be using resistance training based exercise to help strengthen the individual to help cure their pain. However, all of the animal models that we've been using to study the mechanisms of exercise have been with aerobic based training. And we don't know if aerobic or resistance training are using similar mechanisms or the same mechanisms to produce analgesia. The second reason I was interested in resistance training was there was some evidence coming out of our lab and others showing that testosterone is actually analgesic in both humans and in animals. So we put those two together because we knew that resistance training can acutely increase testosterone, and decided to test resistance training in animals to see if that was analgesic or not.
And was it?
And it is. Yes.
You know, we wouldn't be here otherwise.
That's right. That's right. That's why we're here.
You know, I can't help. So I have I live with a lot of pain from my years of pushing my body to very, very far off distances. I have injured myself in numerous places. And one of the injuries I suffer is from a compression in L4, L5, S1, which is traditional with anybody who squatted heavy and deadlifted heavy for decades of their life. And one of the things I find makes my back feel better is planking, which is like that doesn't make sense, right? Like I have lower back problems. So how is activating all the muscles in my lower back to create a rigid platform affecting the pain? But it does. It makes the pain go away.
You know, it's a great question. You know, and what we think happens is that when you're exercising those muscles, it releases chemicals, like you already know, it releases lactate and decreases pH and maybe some ATP. And that all activates mechanisms within that muscle to cause inhibition and stop your pain fibers from firing. And so we've tested a whole bunch of those things in the past. And I think that's why it works so well, is because you're releasing those things right there where the pain is happening.
Right. Locally. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. So how was your study designed? Talk about the study.
Yeah, sure thing. So basically what we did was we've shown that with aerobic-based exercise, that if we train animals, we're using mice, if we stick running wheels in their cages and let them exercise for 8 weeks, we can prevent the development of pain to an insult 8 weeks later. So we kind of took the same structure and we did it in mice again. So what we did was we used about 1 meter tall ladders, and we attached weights to their tails with little foam clips. And 3 days a week, I grabbed the animals and we trained. I took them up the ladder, and each week we would make it harder, kind of using the progressive overload principle. So each week it would go up by about 5% weight. And after 8 weeks of training, we would try to induce our pain model. And we found that these animals that partook in the resistance training program were protected against the development of muscle pain in both males and females, which was something we always test.
Now, and obviously women have testosterone. That's a big misunderstanding. I remember a doctor once telling me, well, testosterone is a male hormone. I'm like, what? Like men have estrogen too. Come on.
Yeah.
But anyway,
right.
How do you induce a pain model? What did you do to the little rodents?
So that's a good question. So there's a lot of different pain models depending on what you want to study. In our lab, we study muscle pain. It's supposed to be reflective of like a clinical syndrome of fibromyalgia. So what we do is this pain model is actually an activity-induced muscle pain. So we were trying to mimic the phenomenon in which individuals with fibromyalgia have activity-induced pain. And obviously that's a big barrier to adhering to exercise programs if individuals who we are telling to exercise to alleviate their pain actually gives them more pain. So the reason we developed this pain model, and I didn't develop it, Kathleen did. The reason it was developed was to study that phenomenon. So what we do is we actually use a dual insult model. So animals receive a low dose pH 5 injection into their left gastrocnemius muscle or their left calf muscle. And then 5 days.
Or is that a phosphatidyl lipid or something?
It's just a. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Oh, it's just a hydrogen ion, and it activates ion channels on a nociceptor to produce pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So day 0 pH 5 injection, and then 5 days later, what we do is we use little electrodes that we put into the left gastrocnemius muscle, and we basically stimulate it till fatigue. So we do 6 minutes of fatiguing contractions, and then we give them a second pH 5 injection. And what this pain model does, which is really interesting, in males, it develops unilateral pain. So they develop pain right at that left calf muscle. Females, however, will develop pain on both sides. So they get pain in the left calf and the right calf.
Any idea why that is, as a tangential discussion?
Oh,
Yeah, sure thing. So the reason, like I said, we found that these are sex differences in this pain phenotype.
Go ahead.
So what we did was to show that testosterone was mediating this difference. Is we orchiectomized males, or we removed their testes so that they couldn't produce testosterone. We waited 2 weeks, and we induced the pain model, and we showed that the males who were orchiectomized developed bilateral pain. So that removal of testosterone caused that widespread pain. And then in the females, we did the opposite. We gave them little pellets embedded in their backs that slowly released testosterone over time. And 2 weeks of that treatment prior to inducing the pain model caused them to develop just unilateral pain on the left side. So we knew that this was testosterone mediated.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's phenomenal.
And now there's
effective. That was really amazing, actually.
Yep. And current work in the lab right now is trying to figure out the mechanism for why that is. So we think it's a centrally mediated phenomenon. So we think that it's changes in the descending pain inhibition in the lower brainstem that's causing these unilateral and bilateral differences. But that work's still going on, so we can't really say definitively.
You know why this is interesting? Because for decades and decades, scientists who were working on pharmaceutical drugs and therapeutics only worked with male rodents.
Oh yeah.
And now there's been a change. There's a lot of but estrogen was thought to be that pesky hormone that changed outcomes. Maybe it wasn't so much estrogen, but that the estrogen levels were higher than the testosterone levels.
We talk. Yeah, in the lab we talk a lot about people just focus on what makes a female different than a male, but they never talk about what makes a male different than a female.
Yeah, I know. Women have done an amazing job at speaking up for themselves for decades now, since the vote. But men have done a horrible job. We go to the bar and we cry in our beer and complain to each other. We don't take any action. Maybe that's testosterone's fault. Who knows? We'll never know.
Maybe.
But anyway, so there's I have a lot of questions. I want to cover the study in depth first, but I have so many other questions that are jumping out at me about the gut, about diet, and how those things would influence these results. So, we know that since you talk about fibromyalgia, I've worked with 2 physicians who treat women with fibromyalgia, and there's a couple salient characteristics that all fibromyalgia patients suffer from, and that is a overconsumption of sugars. They love candy. They'll eat a bag of that cheap candy you get at Bob Evans, that when you're checking out, that cheap, they'll eat bags and bags of that stuff. And I often wonder if these outcomes would be changed if we looked at the diet. Any thoughts on that?
There's not much research on it, but it is thought-provoking. I'd like to figure out if it would matter if you just ate a healthy diet. And I don't even think you need anything too fancy, right? If you just use like my healthy plate diet, it would probably make people somewhat better. But we do know that in fibromyalgia, there are so many changes throughout the central nervous system that diet alone is probably not going to be the thing that's going to, it's not going to have that great of an impact. It might have a small impact.
Well, the only reason why I think I respectfully, I'm an idiot who does a show. I'm not implying that you're wrong, but the only thing that I would respectfully offer is that the immune system is the gut, and the army of the immune system is inflammation. And when you feed yourself, you feed your microbes.
Yeah.
And we feed microbes that cause pain. They cause inflammation. They cause these problems. So and I'm not a fan of my plate, to be honest with you, because I'll tell you, it's worth mentioning this, but there is a brilliant orthopedic surgeon turned dietary zealot named Dr. Sean Baker. If you don't know who he is, you should learn who he is. And he came on my show in 2016 or 17 and talked about the carnivore diet before it really was anything. And today he has literally millions of people not only eating carnivore, but reporting back to him that are getting off of medications. Their rheumatoid arthritis is going away. It's like a panacea. And that makes people go, this can't be true. But what I say is you influence your microbes by what you eat. And we know for a fact, I mean, I did a show years ago, acellular carbohydrates, anything that's turned into a flour, feed the bad microbes in the gut. So eliminating any flour-based products, I would say, would be wise if you want to try to centralize a diet but not be too extreme. But I think the diet can play a role in actually making your work go further. Because if you can say, look, it's not just testosterone, but testosterone is suppressing, it's analgesic. But what if you remove the impetus, the insult for the inflammation in the first place, and testosterone? That would be magic to me.
Yeah, I think you have to have multiple things added up to make an effect.
Yes,
and there's research.
None on their own will ever cure it by itself.
That's an insult to the intelligence of anybody who realizes how complex the human body is.
Yeah.
That there's just one thing you need to do.
Exactly.
No, go away. Joe, you were going to say something.
I think it's a healthy lifestyle. You have to change your behaviors in order to make a difference along pathways.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's also research out there showing that, accumulation of adipose tissue can also decrease the production of testosterone. So that's something to consider too.
And why is that? Because of the overexpression of aromatase. So what ends up happening is, in men at least, and I would imagine in women too, the more subcutaneous fat you carry, and especially in visceral fat, the more inflammation you have, but also the less testosterone you have because it's siphoned off to make estradiol. And if estradiol plays a role in the origination of some of this pain, then you're just pouring gasoline on a fire at that point in time. Body fat plays a big role, no doubt about it. So what else did you learn from this study?
Yeah, so I guess continuing on with the story, to prove that it was mediated through androgen receptors, what we did was we took animals and we used a drug called flutamide, which is an androgen receptor antagonist. And we implanted slow-release flutamide pellets, just like we implanted testosterone pellets in the study before, so that these animals, while they were doing the resistance training program, were constantly getting flutamide. And what that did was it blocked the analgesic effects of the resistance training program. And that's why we believe that the resistance training program produced analgesic effects partly through activation of androgen receptors in both males and females.
That is fascinating. This is really, there's a lot of reasons to get on testosterone as you're an older guy, but this is really a profound one because we live with such pain today. So many people live with pain today. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. We also showed in the study, we were trying to prove that testosterone was up after a resistance training bout. So we found that in males, 5 minutes after a cessation of a training session, testosterone was significantly elevated, and then it came back down to normal levels at 15 and 30 minutes after, much like the human literature has shown. However, we did not see an increase in females in testosterone right after the resistance training program. Despite that fact, we still saw that the androgen receptors were essential for producing the analgesic effects, which was rather interesting.
Do you postulate that stronger androgens would predict even greater analgesic effect? DHT has a greater affinity than testosterone. It's much more powerful. Do you think other androgens and DHA is weaker? What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. So we think that maybe some of it is due to direct activation of androgen receptors, but we also think that testosterone on its own in certain parts of the brain can actually produce some of its analgesia through conversion to estradiol. Yeah. So it's hard to know for sure whether it's all androgen receptors or androgen plus estrogen receptors producing that effect from testosterone. And it may be different in males and females, right? So the effect in males may be very androgen receptor mediated, and females, it might be something else, or vice versa. And until we nail those down, we don't know for sure. And how testosterone works in females is probably quite different. A lot of testosterone in females is more local from the cells than and that's maybe why we didn't get the increases systemically in the plasma, because maybe it's just coming from local cells, and then that may be converted and used differently than it is in males. So it's hard. We don't know those yet. Those are like the next series of experiments we hope to do to really nail that down better.
It's funny you talk about estradiol, because I did a show a decade ago about how estradiol shuts off inflammation during trauma, like brain trauma. Androgens are converted to estradiol, and they attach to a receptor called FAF. I think it stands for fibroblast activation factor.
Yeah.
And actually just makes the brain stop swelling. Like it just clamps it down. So estradiol has a strong analgesic effect in and of itself, I would imagine.
In certain parts, yeah. It's all very messy. Because in certain parts of the brain it works one way, in other parts of the brain it works another way, and we try to make these very broad statements that it's always this way, and it doesn't always work that way. We know generally that testosterone is protective against pain, and that has been consistently shown in multiple studies.
So when we were off the air, I was telling Dr. Sluka that, I was a drug-using athlete for many, many years, and as a result of that, I had to get on HRT in 2007 because my testosterone levels never came back. And I've used very, very high doses of testosterone, nandrolone, trenbolone, and the list goes on and on. And so one of the things that I've learned is that the higher your testosterone levels are, contrary to popular belief, the more androgen receptors you end up having, and that high testosterone levels cause a greater biosynthesis of androgen receptors. And when you compare, when you connect that to the amount of pain that you have to manage as a power lifter, or even a professional weightlifter. You're bench pressing 405, 500 pounds, you're squatting 600-700 pounds, you're deadlifting 600. There's a lot of pain associated with that. Your hands, when you're holding the bar, the bar across your shoulders as you're squatting, and managing that pain is as much of a challenge as actually moving the weight. And when you use high doses of androgens, 2, 3, 4 grams a week of injectable androgens, you're oblivious to that pain. You just don't feel it. So that could be
why.
Yeah, that could, because the androgen receptors go up, and there's a lot more androgens to dock in them and activate them, and so manage that pain a lot easier. Yeah,
well, that explains a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, drugs do help if you're willing to put in the work. A lot of people think you just take the drugs and then you automatically get big and strong. That's not what it is. If you don't eat, sleep, and train hard, the drugs do nothing for you. So what about insulin? Does insulin play a role in any of this discussion? It's a very powerful hormone. It's people who have a lot of pain tend to be a little more insulin resistant, let's say, than the average person. Does insulin play a role in this? Anybody?
I don't think we know the answer to that.
Okay.
That's a good question, and maybe something we should be looking at, but we don't really know the answer to that.
Okay. All right. Well,
sorry about that question.
No. There's a lot.
You
know what? If I had a penny for every scientist who came on my show and said that would be a good study to do, I would, because when you start asking questions, with that,
you'd be rich.
Yeah, I would. Just yesterday it happened. So there are other ways to cause androgen receptor biogenesis, and one of those is the loaded stretch movements have been shown in science. Like just letting the weight bear down on you, doing heavy farmers walks, your traps explode over time. Would that have an effect if a man still had fairly low testosterone, you think?
You would think. I mean, if that's been shown to increase testosterone, you'd think it would work. So, you're looking for ways that you can increase testosterone in a natural, safe, and effective manner, right? And if you can do it through any means that would increase it, makes sense. So whether it's resistance training or stretch or whatever it is, I think we look for those ways because now we know it's analgesic.
Interesting.
So I would expect it would.
Could the aches
that would be a lot harder.
Could the aches and pains that old men get as they get old simply because their testosterone levels are dropping?
There's some interesting data out there showing that as testosterone decreases over time, that is correlated with increases in pain. Yeah, so that is definitely possible.
Sure. And there's some clinical studies that have taken people like with fibromyalgia and correlated lower levels of testosterone with higher levels of pain. So
yeah,
it's
and there's also
possible, but it's
yeah,
also yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
I've also seen work showing that there's a correlation between lower amounts of testosterone and lower amounts of descending pain inhibition coming from the brainstem. So yeah, we think testosterone is working all over the body to help with analgesia. So it's definitely possible.
This opens up a whole new world for those people who would thinking about testosterone replacement therapy. You know, I mean, I remember my father as he got older, when he would bend over, he would go, ugh. You know, it's like, I used to wonder to myself, like, what's that about? And probably his whole body felt some sort of pain that made him do that, just bending over. And it could be because testosterone levels were dropping.
Partially, the other partial problem that happens with age, of course, and the older you get, the more this happens for most individuals, is that you become less active and you become very sedentary. And so you've got kind of the catch of maybe my testosterone levels are low, but I'm also not active. And just being inactive is a risk factor for development of pain and promotes a system which responds to a greater way to pain as well. So it's probably a combination of maybe both, because women too also have more pain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and bringing it back to our research and like this study and other studies we've done, we've shown that it's a lot easier to prevent pain with prior exercise than it is to alleviate pain with exercise after the fact. So that's why we're always promoting exercise, even
what
when
kind of exercise? Are you talking about cardio?
Both aerobic and resistance training.
Yeah,
really.
Yep.
Only reason I asked that is because my pain went away once I started training again.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of shows that you maybe can get rid of the pain by training.
Oh, we definitely think that. We just think it's easier to prevent it than it is to alleviate it.
And certainly we use it as a treatment all the time for people with pain.
Right.
It's one of the safest, most effective treatments you can do for pain.
Just get them to start moving and exercising.
Yes.
Exactly.
The key is to get them to do it. It's the adherence that's the problem.
The jobs of the future that people will want will be like landscaper, brick mason, all the things that, like, my grandfather was a brick mason. He lived to be 98 years old. You know, those are going to be the jobs of the future, because these are the jobs that are killing us. What we're doing right now, sitting in this chair 5, 6, 7 hours a day, sitting in our car, sitting down for dinner, sitting down to watch a little news, and then laying down in bed. I mean, that's really what's killing us at the end of the day. That's it.
Totally. Yes, we totally agree. We've got to get people more active.
We're going to take
not do it.
I know, and we'll talk about that on the other side of the break, because I want to talk about this fascinating thing that moving more and being strong and getting stronger actually will prolong life, but nobody wants to do it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Stay tuned.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/White oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expressions of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's stem cell awakening serum, along with their other products, contain potent formulations of blue copper peptide and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Buy their complete set and receive a free exfoliating cleanser. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. Remodel your skin today. Plant medicine has become all the rage for mental optimization. Now there's an ancient plant medicine rapidly growing in popularity that experts believe might just be the alcohol of the future. It's called True Kava. Kava is a natural food-grade elixir that has been used for over 3,000 years by South Pacific Islanders as safe, non-addictive alternative to drugs and alcohol. By naturally boosting the brain's main feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, Kava provides you with both increased relaxation and mental clarity at the same time. True Kava is a new form of stabilized full-spectrum traditional Kava that is third-party lab tested for quality and safety. Go to shrnetwork.biz/True Kava, and that's TRUKAVA, all one word, and use code SHR for 25% off today. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expressions of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's stem cell awakening serum, along with their other products, contain potent formulations of blue copper peptide and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Buy their complete set and receive a free exfoliating cleanser. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. Remodel your skin today.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Kathleen Sluka and Joseph Lesnak. They are from Iowa State, right? That's where you guys
University of Iowa.
University of Iowa. Sorry. Thank you. And we're talking about the effects of testosterone, the androgen receptor, and vanquishing pain. So we talked off the air because your whole real focus is exercise and exercise physiology. And you stumbled upon this contributor. Exercise actually can help you cope with pain or even rid your body of pain. Is it exclusively muscle pain, you think? Or, a lot of times there's a spillover, right? Endorphins are produced, but they affect a lot of different things in the body. Do you think that all the pain in the body is affected when you exercise?
Oh, yes, we do. We've tested several different models, at least with our aerobic conditioning studies. So we know that nerve injury pain, joint pain, there's studies that show, of course, muscle pain, because that's our primary interest. But they've even done it in like central nervous system injury pain conditions. So there are a lot of different pain conditions have been shown to be reduced by a whole variety of different exercises. We don't know about resistance training because we're obviously the first one to do that in animal model. But certainly aerobic training does work on all of those, and probably because it does release endogenous opioids and serotonin to produce pain relief. And so it will release them systemically to do that.
You have anything to add to that, Joe?
All I would say is that what we find interesting with this work that we just published that kind of goes along with what Kathleen said is we think these effects are systemic, like she mentioned. And part of the reason we think that is we saw that in our resistance training model, the animals saw great increases in strength in their upper extremities, but we induce our pain model and test pain in the lower extremities. So despite the fact that they train their upper extremities, we saw pain prevention in the lower extremities. So we think that these effects are systemic, yes.
Why aren't doctors prescribing exercise?
They're not trained. They don't, they're not really trained in exercise. They do kind of, they'll tell people you should exercise, you should do this, but they don't really know how to do exercise, and it's very time consuming. And the exercise experts are really the physical therapists out there, right, for health. And so if you're going to, what we really need is to get them to send them to physical therapy a little more and get people out there able to do it more. I just don't think they know how to do exercise well. They're not that comfortable with.
Joe, should it be a physical therapist who is accustomed to taking a person who has been injured back to a level of normalcy, or should it be a personal trainer who is teaching people how to go beyond and how to super compensate and build more muscle?
That's a really good question. So in my training with physical therapy, you get taught how to prescribe exercises, and it's mostly geared towards people who are injured, but that doesn't mean physical therapists can't also take you past the point of where you were at before injury. But I also worked in several clinics in which there are personal trainers tied to the physical therapy clinics, and they'll do transition programs where you'll work with a physical therapist, kind of get your pain back just to a baseline or a normal level, and then transition you to personal trainers who can do more high level training with you.
And I have actually spoken about this over the years periodically when appropriate, that I think that every medical practice, GP, family medicine, should have a personal trainer or personal trainers that they have vetted, and they know they're going to do things to keep people safe and logical stuff. And because exercise is magic. I mean, it's been shown to work better than SSRIs in major depressive disorder.
Right.
And it doesn't have any of the horrible side effects of SSRIs, and we don't only want to list them here. I mean, exercise is not optional. It is an artificial replacement for what we would have been doing 40,000 years ago, which is moving all day, working hard, lifting stuff, and gathering calories and chewing food all day long. We were not any different than the bear or the deer or any other animal out there. We were always looking for more food, and we were moving, and we were building huts, and we were lifting babies on our hips while we were walking. Today, we don't do that, and this is why we have all this disease. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. Nobody wants to work out because guess what? It's hard, and we don't want to do anything hard. Oh no, it's hard. I don't want to do that. But if you embrace it a little bit, if you train for 2 or 3 weeks, you won't stop. I mean, assuming you don't hurt yourself by doing something stupid from the get-go. Because, I mean, at my age, I feel pretty crappy in the morning. My wife, Elisa, laughs because I say, I wake up as a caveman, and then I slowly straighten out over the morning, and then I go and I train. And training is my medicine. I've said that in the past. It's like I walk out of the gym and I feel like King Kong. I'm like, oh, everything is wonderful. And like, I don't understand why doctors aren't getting more serious about exercise than they do today. It's really a frustration of mine. It really is.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, there's so many different types of people you could put into primary care. There's a couple of studies that have dumped people like a physical therapist or put in an athletic trainer into primary care, and they get an uptick in exercise. And I think it's really useful, and we do need more. Everybody sits around all day. They watch TV. It's I don't have time, but you have time to watch a 2-hour movie every single night. You don't have time to do 20 minutes of training. So when we work with our patients, you have to kind of work with them and get them to buy into something and get them to do whatever works. So if we know that aerobic works, if we know that resistance works, and maybe they like aerobic better than they like resistance training, we don't really care. We just say, go do whatever you will do and whatever is enjoyable to you. If that's walking around the block with your friends, that's great. If it's going to the gym, that's fantastic. But anything you can get them to do to get their activity level up, and maybe not even every day. It's very hard for people to commit to every day, but if we could get them to commit to every other day and we work with them, that would be great. My best story is the patient I had one time, and her back pain went away completely with exercise after about 6 to 7 weeks. It was gone. And she calls me 6 months later and says, my pain, it's back. And the first question I had for her was, well, are you doing your exercises? She says, no, I quit. My pain went away. I said, well, come on in. That's $60. We're going to do your exercises. And her pain went away. And she said, do I have to exercise for the rest of my life? I said, well, it's your choice. You can come to see me every 6 months, or you can exercise for the rest of your life. But it's this mindset, right? That I don't.
It is.
It's a challenge to get past for people.
And Sean Wasson, who's watching on YouTube, makes an interesting point that makes this even more problematic. And he says insurance companies to pay for personal trainers. Since the inception of health insurance, which is relatively new to our population, and when it was introduced, it was used by companies to attract people. You know, nobody went to the doctor back in the day. In the 1920s and the 1800s, when you got something, you treated it yourself. And if it was really severe, you know, you caught your arm in a thrasher while you were working on the farm, then you had a doctor. But nobody went to the doctor back in the day. Then when health insurance was introduced for big corporations to offer to their employees, well, not only are we going to pay you this, paid holidays, vacation, we're going to give you this thing called health insurance. What's that? Well, you go to the doctor anytime you want. And it was foreign to people. Like, why would I want to go to the doctor? But then slowly but surely, just like going to the buffet, I was just at an all resort. I felt compelled to drink to get my money's worth. I felt compelled to eat more to get my money's worth. And so people were like, oh, I've got this health insurance. You know, I'm going to go see the doctor for this. I'm going to see the next thing you know, everybody wants and needs health insurance. That's nonsense. Not everybody wants and needs health insurance, the truth is. But here's the problem. Money. So people are used to going to the doctor and not paying hardly anything. And now you're telling them you got to hire a personal trainer. And they go, well, will the insurance company pay for that? And the doctor goes, probably not. And they go, yeah, no, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And it's just so short.
It's the same thing for physical therapy and personal trainers and people who can get you back and moving. It's more expensive to do that than it is to take a drug, right? So if I give you a month's supply of opioids, it's $5. If I send you to the physical therapist for a month, it's $1,000 out of pocket. So we have to change the structure and get the structure so that the safer, you know, self-help things are on par with taking the less safe, less self-help things.
Right. I have a saying that I say on the show all the time. I say stronger is younger. We know that longevity and health span both correlate with people who exercise regularly, and especially resistance exercise. We know that muscle is metabolic. We know that it's a gland, it's an organ. It does all these magical things, but it's the only thing that's been shown in science to truly extend the life of humans. Not metformin, not rapamycin, not berberine, not any of your magic pills, potions, or magic beans. Exercise, and especially resistance exercise. And I say on this show all the time, stronger is younger. If you know, I have a lot of people tell me, man, I wish I was younger. All the things I'd be able to do. I say, get in the gym and make yourself younger. What do you mean make yourself young? Well, we assign strength to youth. When you're young, you're strong, you move, you're virile, you're able to do everything. Get stronger. Technically, if you get stronger, you're getting younger. If you're stronger this week than you were last week, then you're younger than you were last week. What do you think of that?
Joe?
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of correlation studies looking at, you know, like quad strength, or like you mentioned before the podcast, grip strength, on how those have great outcomes long term, or correlate really well long term on health outcomes. So
it's true. I mean, there's lots of great research out there supporting that. So, you know, I think we're all preaching to the choir here. What we really need is to get the rest of the people on board.
We need to get a show like this on mainstream TV, but it'll never happen because there are so many negatives assigned with the idea of telling people to work. So it's just not going to happen right now. Well, before we take the break, I want to mention that we have two people in the green room now that are going to come on and talk about a product we promote on the show called BioPro Plus, which is an elixir of growth factors. And one person's response to that We're going to take one commercial break. When we come back, we will wrap up this interview. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night, and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. Most people have heard of phytoestrogens, but did you know there are beneficial phytoandrogens? The top source of these is pine pollen. It even contains trace amounts of testosterone and DHEA. If you're looking for a 100% natural testosterone booster, this is worth trying. Lots of men love it, and it even works for women. Lost Empire Herbs offers the highest quality wild harvested, non-irradiated pine pollen backed by a 365-day money-back guarantee. It works for you, or you don't have to pay for it with nothing to send back. Go to shrnetwork.biz/lost empire. Use code SHR. Get 15% off your order today. Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
I'm a terrible producer. I can't get the cameras on lined up right. That's okay. Hey, look, we changed places. Joe's on top now.
Yep, there you go.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Kathleen Sluka and Joseph Lesnak from the University of Iowa about this amazing study. In my humble opinion, this is an amazing study. Maybe a lot of people will be excited about this, but if testosterone and androgen receptors play a role in pain management, that is a blessing, because now we have something to shoot at to remove pain without taking harsh drugs. So did we miss anything? Are there any messages that you want to get out to the audience, Joe or Dr. Sluka, about this work and what it means?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of the study in full here. I think one thing we didn't mention yet was what we also found interesting was we looked at increases in muscle size. So we looked at cross-sectional area analysis to see if the resistance training program was increasing hypertrophy or not, which is what you traditionally see with resistance training. And we found that it did not increase cross-sectional area of the muscles, which we found rather interesting, which suggests that you don't necessarily need to bulk up or add a lot of muscle in the gym to have the analgesic effects of resistance training. So we thought that was really interesting as well.
And we see the same thing.
So just the exercise itself removes pain, even if your goal is to get more muscle. Okay, that's cool.
Exactly.
We see kind of the same thing with aerobic training. It's not that you have to do high intensity, at 70% VO2 in order to get the analgesic effects. You can get them with very low levels of VO2, walking around the block or the mall or whatever it is, and you can get them within days. You don't have to wait till you get the training effects. So our analgesic effects are occurring well before the training effects are occurring, which I think is really valuable, because there's some people who maybe can't go to that level of exercise. And that doesn't preclude them from getting an analgesic effect. And I think that's a really important point.
I always imagined that the reason that we got muscle pain when we didn't train was because our muscles were breaking down. And, I have a 80-year-old stepfather-in-law, and his creatinine levels are always so high. And Elisa says to me, "Why is creatinine levels so high?" I says, "Because he's probably losing muscle sitting in that chair all day long, because he can't move. He's got, he's been ablated twice. He's got COPD. He was a fireman, and something happened to his lungs. And so, your muscles are breaking down." And I always wondered, as muscles break down, nerves and blood vessels are attached to these muscle cells. And when these muscle cells become inactive and start breaking down, I've always wondered if it was kind of like the phantom pain type phenomenon, that these cells are literally dying off. The nerves that used to be attached to them, they have nothing to do anymore. So they just go into this pain mode. Any thoughts on that?
Well, that is probably part of it. The other part of it that happens is that our immune system that actually polices the microenvironment, including in your muscle, and there's a number of different immune cells that are sitting in your muscle, they change their phenotype, become more excitable and more inflammatory, and release inflammatory things like interleukin-6s and produce pain. And so if you're more sedentary and you don't move, you have more of these out there producing pain. And I think that is really part of what's happening, is that our whole system has changed into this state that sets it up to respond with more pain stimulus than it would if you were just regularly active. Because when you're active, that whole immune system then shifts, and it shifts to a state where we're releasing now cytokines that actually inhibit pain. And we don't talk about those in the literature much. You don't see them in the popular press, but these anti-inflammatory cytokines, they're really great, and they reduce pain in addition to reducing inflammation. And the exercise is transferring them from one type to the other, and that occurs right in the muscle, and it promotes healing in the muscle. So if you're not doing it, you could be breaking down things in the muscle and resulting in a whole different state that the muscle is in. So it responds and becomes more painful to all kinds of insults, including day-to-day activities.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're supposed to be moving more. That's the bottom line.
That's our main message, is just get out there and move.
Whatever, and we talk on the show about, if you're somebody who really is not well, maybe standing during the commercials of your favorite show is all you can do, then do that. Mm-hmm. And then once that gets easy, then walk around the sofa during the commercials. Mm-hmm. Sit back down. And then once that gets easy, walk around the room during your commercials. But, you know, you're where you are, you know, and take it from me. I suffer from this. I used to be a really, really strong guy, and I loved my strength. I wore it on my sleeve. I was very proud about how hard I worked and how much I lifted. And I can't do that anymore, at least not right now. The pandemic and the foot surgery kind of really threw me for a loop, and it's taking me a lot longer to recover from. But so what? So if all I can do is walk for 30 minutes a day, then that's where I start. There's no shame in that. I'm talking to myself right now because I'm an ego-driven power lifter who trained back on Wednesday, but then I'm on do cardio warming up. I'm supposed to train chest today, but I see you deadlifting. I'm really going to go deadlift with you and train back again today because I know I can deadlift more than you and I want to get on that platform with you. Like, I'm that asshole, seriously. But you don't have to do what you used to do in your 20s and 30s. You just have to do what you can do now. And then remember the word progression. Over the course of weeks and months, try to do a little bit more. Be gentle with your body, because that's the game changer. And if you just keep progressing, then one day you're walking a mile a day, and then another day you're walking 2 miles a day, and your life changes, and you will never give it up, I promise you, because this is addictive. I was an addict at a young age. I grew up in an era where if you didn't do drugs, nobody trusted you. And I can tell you that I'm now addicted to exercise, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing to be addicted if you can get addicted to it. I think this is a great study. I can't wait. So what's coming next out of your lab? Who wants to say? Nobody?
I can. So we got a couple studies coming out of the lab, particularly like work that I'm working on is we're looking at developing pharmaceuticals for analgesic mechanisms. And then we also have some really interesting data coming out where we did a technique called RNA sequencing, which basically looks at the changes in RNA or mRNA specifically after we induce the pain model. So we can start to see what genes are upregulated after we induce our pain model. We did it in exercise animals too, to try to figure out what genes are being altered by exercise to prevent pain. And we found some really interesting results, especially looking at differences between males and females. So that should be coming down the pike here in a little bit as well.
Well, you're invited back.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was just to say, we're trying to do some clinical studies, try and figure out how we can reduce pain with exercise in people with chronic pain so that they will exercise more with less pain. So we're working on some of those as well.
Just run an ad on the internet for every guy over 60. He's got plenty of pain to share. Don't worry about that.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. So any guy over 60 want to be in a study? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. All right. Look, I want to thank you so much for being today. This has been fun and it's insightful, but I really do mean it when I say that this research is really critically important for people because as you get older, you do get more pain in your body. Thank you for being here today, Joe. Thank you for being here, Dr. Sluka.
Thank you, Carl.
Very much.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Care.
All right, we're going to take one quick commercial break. Oh, what did I do? I brought Joe back on by accident. I told you I'm a bad producer. We're going to take one quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to have Dustin from BioPro Plus and a testimonial from somebody I know talking about using BioPro Plus and what it has done for him. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Don't go away. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/mypillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects, and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Hey, welcome back. We're on right now with Dustin Baker from Cervidians, the manufacturers of BioPro Plus. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm pretty great, Carl. How you doing, buddy?
Did you hear any of that last interview about how testosterone helps reduce pain?
So I came in closer to the end of that interview, and I kind of caught the tail end of it. So I'm actually really interested. I wish I would have hopped on sooner. It sounded, at least from the kind of the conclusional analysis or whatever at the end, it sounds pretty on point. At least he's not a physician.
Well, but now I've heard a lot of people say that the BioPro Plus also, and today we're going to talk to a guy who it actually fixed his testosterone. He had crashed his testosterone. And I'm wondering if you get people who say that their pain went away when they started after a while of using BioPro Plus.
So that's interesting. I wasn't prepared for that. But to answer that question, actually, yes. We have individuals who have called us crying in gratitude from I'll use a specific example, so it's not like all over the place. We had a woman, her name was Roxanne, and she kind of contacted us out of the blue. She had been using the product from her physician for a while, and she literally, her exact quote is, nothing else had worked, pain medication, different pharmaceuticals, and BioPro Plus did. And she goes to tears every time she talks about it because she wasn't even able to do yard work And after, a few weeks, going to a few months, she was out there doing whatever she wanted to do and moving around like nothing had happened. She was an ex-law enforcement officer and fire department employee. So being able to help out first responders always makes us feel good as well. But to answer your question, yeah, specifically, yes.
Makes sense. And now they've discovered this at the University of Iowa, that both androgen receptor, but more importantly, testosterone is an analgesic and rids people of horrible pain. I mean, that's just one more reason to make sure your testosterone levels are high. You know what I mean? And it worked in women as well as men. So that speaks to Roxanne.
I'm the type of guy that kind of like takes two things and critically thinks about it. Like, well, if this is always happening and this is always happening, and there's always this middle ground, you can kind of come to a good conclusion. So if you're going through andropause, or you're hitting the male version of menopause, and all of a sudden, you're waking up 40, 45, 50 years old, even older, and magically, you wake up different pains in different areas. I mean, sometimes things, A plus B equals C.
Right. Now, did you have a chance to see Tim Profumo's testimonial before we bring him on here live?
I know it was sent in. I haven't personally watched it yet, okay. So I'm really stoked to hear how he did, and I'm really excited to hear from him.
It's nothing short of miraculous, and I'm being sincere. And, so let's bring Tim on. For full disclosure, Tim is my nephew, and he also sells for Superhuman Radio now. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great. Glad to be on the show.
Tim is like literally in the office right over there. He's like,
I want to say something before I start, before you ask any questions. So the benefit of having this job is I get to try out products before, I like it more than even getting paid. So I get to try the products when they come in. And
don't say that too loud.
Oh, am I too loud?
No, I said don't say that too loud. No.
Oh, he's joking.
I'm joking, but I do love BioPro Plus. It's been my favorite product so far. I will say that.
Well, so let me ask you questions. Let me take control of this, okay? Because you will host this show someday. Don't worry about it. Okay. So let's talk about back history for a second. Right. You've been through it in the past 2 years, right?
Yes.
You've had a tough life, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and you've suffered from depression, and rightfully so. You lost your sister Ryan last year to fentanyl poisoning.
Yeah.
And also you've had some, let's just say, issues of stability in the past couple of years that have really thrown you for a loop. And I want to tell this story a little bit because I'm very proud of Timmy, because his life is really great now. But you were on SSRIs for a while, right?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Well, to be honest, they made me feel numb. They were good for a while because, my sister just passed away and I needed something to, numb my emotions. But in the long run, it wasn't really good for me. I was numb. I couldn't even get in. My friends were talking to girls and I couldn't even conversate with them because I wasn't interested in anything. I was just, a couch potato. I didn't want to do anything.
Right. Okay. So with that being said, and as you've said, Dustin was kind enough to send us a sample pack, and I gave it to you because I'm on injectable testosterone, and I thought it would be unfair for me to start using it. It's probably like, it's just, I may or may not notice anything, and I don't want to waste it, so I gave it to Tim. Talk about when you started taking. Now, are you taking the nighttime version, the daytime version, or both?
I'm taking both. So when I first started taking the daytime version, it was more like a ritual. I would just get up, take it in the morning. That and caffeine were like my first thing that I wanted to get. So I would take it in the morning, and I didn't start seeing effects until about a week or two in. But I started seeing that I would, last longer in the gym. And the sleep BioPro Plus is the best. I could take. I put it under my tongue, and I'm about out in 30 minutes. I replaced it with melatonin.
You've replaced melatonin with it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've been taking both of them now for over a month, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So talk about your experience. First of all, you experimented with SARMs, selective androgen receptor modulators. And after you did that, your testosterone dropped out, right?
Oh yeah, it was very bad. So I took them when I was about 16 or 17. The gains were good, obviously, but when I stopped taking them, I didn't even take a post cycle.
Right.
So I lost all the muscle, and I didn't even want to go back in the gym because I was looking horrible. So the whole difference is with BioPro Plus is like I already have a great diet that me and you talked about, but it's different. I could stop taking it and I wouldn't have withdrawals. I wouldn't. I would I would have all the benefits in the gym without taking anything that's harming my body.
And talk about your depression since you started. What did you notice about your depression since you started taking BioPro? And I know that, look, we are not stating anything that we're trying to cure disease. We're just talking about one person's journey with this supplement. What works for you, what works for somebody else, we don't know. But I wanted to get his story on because it's profound. Talk about your depression.
So it's both anxiety and depression. So a while back, I couldn't even come out the house. I was actually living with, Carl and my aunt, and they had to force me to come out the house. It was like
he wouldn't leave. We would say, "Well, go out with your friends." He would go up in his bedroom. He'd watch Netflix, and he just didn't want to go out. He was like too anxiety ridden just to go out. It was really sad. We watched it, and my Elisa cried often about it because she felt bad for him.
So now, I shouldn't be going to bars, but I am going to bars, not drinking.
No, you're 19. You should be going to bars. I'm the one who can't go to bars.
Yeah. But I'm going to bars. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm just doing everything that wasn't possible before this, and I'm really determined to reach my goals in the gym and outside of the gym, and I wasn't able to do that before. And a lot of things were holding me back because of my anxiety and depression. So I'm really glad it's going better now.
Now, have you seen this, Dustin, where people who did have anxiety and depression said, "Hey, I know I was taking it to make better gains in the gym, but I just have a great sense of well-being all of a sudden"?
So first, I want to say something to Tim. And I really wasn't, I'm caught off guard a little bit. I mean, clearly, if anybody's watching, they can see my face. Like, I'm thrilled to hear this information. But Tim, I got to level with you, buddy. I lost my sister when I was younger, and I lost my brother as well in my 20s. And I can totally relate to what you're going through. And I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know people will actually say that when it happens, but I've been there. I got a few years on you, so you just keep doing what you're doing and persevere, which is my, number one piece of advice, and you'll crush it at life. If you can get through these things and take on this adversity headstrong and stay strong and overcome it, you will be unstoppable. So after that being said, because I mean, you're hitting me right in my chest, but after that, to answer your question, Carl, yes, in fact, it's crazy that you say that, because I got a phone call yesterday from a gentleman who is in his 60s, so not the same as Tim from an age perspective, but from his 60s, who takes, I don't know specifically how many or what pills specifically are pharmaceuticals. And again, like you said, Carl, I'm not a physician, so this is not medical advice, it's anecdotal. However, in his mid-60s, suffers from a lot of depression, anxiety, does not leave the house. That seems to be this common thread, right? His specific joke or analogy would be he should have bought stock in Lazy Boy, because he's not getting out of that chair. He's been on BioPro Plus. He started his second month, and again, we get these phone calls a lot, so it's awesome. But he's like, I have this feeling now that I want to get out and do stuff. I want to get out of the house, and he's been in the house for years. He wants to get out and do things. So to answer your question with an anecdotal story, the answer is yes, Carl, we do. We can tie them to a few different ingredients or a few different things that we see. There's multiple effects for that. But yes, the answer is absolutely. Tim, you're not alone. You're special, 100%, but this is not a isolated experience.
So how many, growth factors are actually in a vial of BioPro Plus?
So there's 150 milligrams of the raw material itself. There's 150 milligrams of the actual growth factor material. There's 25 milligrams of tribulus on top of that. And then there's a specific amount of a proprietary blend that we add in for genetic what we call our genetic activator, or cellular permeability, just meaning absorption. And then there's 13 different growth factor constituents that you can find inside of the raw material.
You know what's fascinating? I didn't realize there was oh God, what did you do? Not for Doja. What you said that there's a testosterone booster in there. What did you just said?
Shilajit is in there. So Shilajit is it has a lot of studies for use for naturally increasing testosterone levels. Some studies say like 30%, which to me is phenomenal for something that's completely natural.
Well, and the name you just mentioned, I can't believe I
Tribulus.
can't. So Tribulus has been actually shown. So there are studies that show that Tribulus raises testosterone. There's studies that show that it doesn't. But all the studies show a sense of well-being and an increase in libido. So regardless of whether it raises testosterone or not, it actually makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's interesting. I didn't realize that was in there. That's very cool. So Tim, Lisa just said Tribulus. Thank you. I was having I only have so much bandwidth every day. I'm working on so many different things. Now my brain is just malfunctioned. Thank you, Elisa. So in summary, Tim, what would you say to people out there who are thinking about trying BioPro Plus?
I would say go for it. My story is very particular to me, but I feel like if you're taking something that you shouldn't take, it's definitely a great alternative. And, what do you have to lose? You should take it because it's all natural. And that's all I have to say. I think you should take it.
Hey, Tim, question. If what would you think was your biggest, the biggest problem with when you were taking it, or what was the biggest thing that, you kind of give you second thoughts or how let's use the word hesitation. What was your number one hesitation before starting?
I actually thought about this before. My number one hesitation was that it wasn't going to work and that I'd be doing all this for nothing. But the second one was when I started it, I had a burning sensation under my tongue, and I was like, hey, Carl, man, I don't know what this is, but it's kind of tweaking me out. I don't really like it. And then, but it got better, and yeah, so those were the two biggest things. But
so this is like a tincture, right? So it has a little alcohol in it. Is that what it is?
It's a single vial. So it is suspended in organic grape alcohol. So there's a few reasons for that. Number one is it's actually a preservative that can be used for the raw materials, because we don't want to use citric acid or sodium benzenate, those types of, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know what that is. Read almost any label on anything. You want to stay away from those types of preservatives. Those are actually, a lot of people don't realize it's mold. Like they use mold to preserve products. We don't do anything like that. We don't believe in that kind of stuff. So, but also more importantly, the alcohol, what the feeling that you're burning, Tim, is we like to say intense, but you're feeling the alcohol expressing the blood vessels in your mouth, so you can actually absorb the material into the blood vessels in your mouth, so you can bypass the digestive system.
Yeah, because alcohol is used for transdermal delivery too, because it's a permeation enhancer, because it disrupts the cells so that things of 400, 500, 600 Dalton or so can slip right by. And that's especially true of the mucosal membranes, like in the mouth, the buccal, that enhances the absorption. So you're not swallowing the growth factors. They're already in your body when you swallow the leftover fluids, right?
Yeah, I mean, we like to you absorb whatever you can and then swallow the rest, right? We don't expect you to keep it in your mouth for 5 minutes, and a lot of it will absorb down the way down your esophagus, etc. But to talk about the alcohol topical, we were joking around the other day. Some of the guys that have been there for a long time, we're joking about you can literally there's 100,000 square feet, but we have there's a special area for all the organic grape alcohol, and you can actually put your finger in the drums. I mean, clearly we don't for safety reasons, but you could, and you can literally get intoxicated from just putting your finger inside of the alcohol. It's legit. It's that serious.
Yeah. So Tim, you would say to anybody listening about this product, give it a try, because you got nothing to lose. And you've been told it's an intense feeling underneath your tongue. I've taken it. It's no big deal. I take tinctures of bee pollen sometimes, and it's also in an alcohol solution. Does the same thing, and bourbon does too.
You get used to it. The intensity lessens as you get used to it, but that's not uncommon at all.
Now I can put it under my tongue, and I don't really, feel it as much. The only time I feel it ever is if I'm like laying down on my bed and I stand up real quick, and it's like boom, like I don't know why, but it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, that may not have anything to do with.
Don't tie that to mine. Yeah.
You may be a little dehydrated, is what that means. But I never see you drink water. Never, ever, ever. Am I right about that?
Look, I have things to work on, and that's one of them. But yeah, I'll start drinking more water here soon.
Tim.
Yeah, because that's called hypostatic hypotension, and when you get out of a chair real fast, and your blood pressure drops, and you get a little weary and wheezy, and that's because there's not enough fluid in your blood, and your kidneys can't clamp down fast enough to keep the blood in your head. So you need to be drinking more water. There's no doubt. I just realized that. I've never seen you drink. Well, no. When you come to the house, you drink all the sparkling water in the house. You do that. So every can of sparkling water is gone when he comes home.
When we work with a lot of our professional athletes and a lot of our guys that are off season, it's 1 ounce at minimum. It's 3/4 to 1 ounce per pound of body weight. So just even 2% dehydration can bring your output levels down by 50%. Like it's a massive, massive, massive thing. Highly recommend. I don't know how much you weigh, but it's easy to just carry around a gallon of water, get your marking thing, and making it through every day. But hydration. I was listening to you about the gym, man. You got to get that water down big time.
Yeah, and you got to get it down earlier in the day. Because if you start drinking late at night, you'll be up peeing all night, and then you're exhausted.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, does not drinking enough water affect muscle growth?
100%. How do you transport nutrients in your body?
Never mind that. Sarcoplasmic fluid that fills up the muscle fibers and plumps them up, which makes your muscles look full and big. It's made with water. So yeah.
And also, Tim, when you are chronically dehydrated, and a lot of Americans actually are, they have no idea, you will elevate a hormone in your body called cortisol. Now, cortisol has its place in intensity and training, but at short bursts. If you stay at an elevated cortisol level over time, you actually start catabolic effects on your body, meaning you will eat the muscle tissue and store body fat that you're trying to build. So if you're in a catabolic state, even if it's from dehydration or lack of sleep or even lack of caloric intake, you're going to eat muscle. Your body's literally going to eat it to survive. It's your survival hormone. So elevated cortisol is no good.
Yeah, and your body needs those amino acids for other functions. And if it can't get it from your diet, it just steals it from your muscles. He's absolutely right. All right, so let me put this up real quick for the audience that is watching and listening on the podcast. If you want to try BioPro Plus, you can save $30 off right now. You can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, BIOPRO, and use the code SHR30. Give it a try. They have a daytime and nighttime version. Personally, I would recommend the nighttime version because anything that'll help you sleep better is a wonderful thing. And also, you produce more of your own growth factors when you sleep better. But that's just me. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a safe recommendation, Dustin, or should they start out with the daytime?
So there are two different products, actually. So, but to touch it, you were absolutely spot on about improving your sleep, first and foremost. I think that's the most underutilized tool in overall health and wellness and the most overlooked by physicians. And that's literally my job, is just to go talk and speak to physicians at this point, across the country and even sometimes overseas. So that is the absolute most overlooked tool I've ever come across. But to answer your question more specifically, the AM version is literally growth factor. So that's kind of what you're taking is what your your body's missing out on or not making as much of anymore. And then the PM version is a version to help maximize your sleep cycles, specifically your NREM and REM sleep cycles, when 70 to 90% of your hormone is actually secreted. So then we help to spur your natural production, and we do it safely. So they each have their place. If you are hesitant at all about trying our products, start with the sleep. We laugh a lot because we call it our gateway drug, because we know once you use the sleep product, as Nick was talking about, I mean, you're in 100% because you know that they work. So I'm excited to hear, Nick, about your experience. It's actually, I wasn't ready for that. It was very powerful stuff, man. I'm very grateful to be a part of your process, and we're grateful for the opportunity. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you offer any kind of special discount for people who want to buy both? Like if somebody says, look, I want the nighttime version, but I want the daytime version too?
We do not. The only the discount, for lack of a better term, other than what your code is, we offer a buy 3 get 1 free. So if you buy 3, you get your fourth free. That's what we do right now.
Could you mix and match? Can I buy 2 of the nighttime, 1 of the daytime, and then get the free one as a daytime, so I could take 1 in the morning, 1 at night?
That is a great idea. Unfortunately, you're way ahead of us, Carl. The answer is no. And part of that reason being is because of a simple cost factor. I mean, to create this growth factor product, the cost is a lot different than the sleep product. So to get, a free AM product with the sleep doesn't make sense mathematically, but we are working on bundles and additions, etc. So that's really great ideas. I appreciate that.
All right, so one last time, I'm going to tell people to go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, BIOPRO. Use the code SHR30 to save $30 off. Give it a try. This stuff's nothing short of amazing. It really, really is. I've watched Tim, and not to mention the muscle he's put on in a very short period of time. Like, we haven't even talked about that, but that's okay, because that's harder to define as being from this versus that. But he's training a half hour more every session than he was before. And whether the muscle he's gained is intrinsic or extrinsic, I can't tell you that. But the bottom line is his gains are right. I mean, this is the biggest you've ever been right now, right, Tim?
Yeah, and it's the strongest I've ever been. And I'm trying to get off here so I can go get some water, because now I'm self-conscious about it. Like, I haven't been drinking enough water.
I know, that's the way it is. Sean Watson says, I ordered my second to see if I feel the difference. Thank you very much, Sean, for the patronage. And that's it. Dustin, thank you so much for being a sponsor of the show, too. May is the hardest month to find podcast sponsors, traditionally, year after year. We just got an email from a company called the podcast agency, and they said that for 22 years now they've struggled the month of May. So we really value people who stick with us, really, really, really a lot. So I really appreciate that, Dustin.
No problem, Carl. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your audience. I appreciate the experience so far, and it warms my heart to be able to help guys like Tim out. And Tim, man, love that story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
And that's it. That's it for today. I'm off the air tomorrow. It's Derby. For those of you who don't know and live under a stone, it's Kentucky Derby here in Louisville, Kentucky. Today is Oaks Day. The city is off. No one is working. Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow's. Is today Oaks, and then tomorrow? How's it go, Tim? What is Friday? Friday is what?
So Friday's Derby. Today's Oaks. I don't know what's after that. Don't pay attention. But there's going to be a lot of drinking. And go bet on number 3. That's my favorite horse.
Who is number 3, Tim?
I don't know. I just said that for content.
Watch, people are going to bet number 3 and win.
Yeah, you might get some, or they might not, and you might get some different emails.
Yeah, so for the people who do win, send Tim money. For the people who don't win, don't contact Tim. That's all. All right, look, it's been great having you here today, Dustin. Thanks for being here, everybody in the audience. We'll see you Monday with more Superhuman Radio. Take care.